Something very interesting is being cooked up in Utah, and while it is a little bit basketball related, it's also related to just the development of the city, and it has some very interesting implications going forward. Thanks for tuning in this video. It's your boy Wraith Hoops. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications, and become a member to get the video faster than anybody else. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this one. Now, the Utah Jazz owner, Ryan Smith, actually has recently posted about the rendering of a proposed downtown Salt Lake City stadium district. I find it interesting because as a state, they're known for having really just the Utah Jazz basketball team. Outside of that, it would be interesting to see them add other things they've been talking about, you know, possibly getting an NFL team and an NHL hockey league team. But it seems like the hockey league seems to be the most interesting one to get added into the mix. And the way they created the rendering was actually very interesting. Now, he called the downtown area of Salt Lake City the heart of Utah, and he said it desperately needs investment. And that's understandable because when you think about Utah from a basketball point of view, you think of a team that always has to draft talent and prove that they are very capable as an organization. And even then, a lot of people don't take them serious in the league. They don't really have rings to show for it naturally. However, at the same time, you find yourself in a situation where potentially if you do end up developing and creating a sort of downtown culture, and not necessarily a party nightlife kind of culture, but just something with more activities, more funds, more investments, and just more overall structure, could you potentially see more stars kind of lean towards going that way in free agency? I found that to be a little bit of an interesting take that really a lot of people aren't genuinely discussing. Now, of course, we're talking about the fact that it can pump in a lot more money. It can make things a lot more interesting. And if you have a situation where you have an NBA center and you have an NHL center in the same general vicinity, you can put a lot of entertainment district buildings and businesses there. You can really build up the core community of that area and put in a lot of investments that will end up paying dividends in the fact of small businesses, big businesses, and just more intriguing and more lucrative situations being brought into the city. With that though, it creates a sort of life that's a little bit different from what most people think of when they think of Utah. If you create a nightlife and a scene about business and other situations that rivals that of perhaps not a New York City, but if you can get closer to it than they've been in the past and move out of the range where you're looking at like a Charlotte situation, then you create an area where you have a couple star players that if they're in the right situation and if their right situation presents itself and the money's on the table, they might be willing to go ahead and take that gamble and say, this might be a place where I could see my family going. Or if it's just them by themselves, a place where they could see themselves living, playing basketball, and eventually just continuing to grow individually as a person and perhaps even starting their family out there. I think that most importantly, it just puts them into a headspace where things could potentially end up allowing them to be more lucrative and bring in more of the primetime players. Now, obviously, you're not going to see a world where you expect a guy like a LeBron caliber guy to pick Utah of all places. But you would definitely, I think, increase the odds of such a thing occurring by investing the way that they suggest that they do to create such an entertainment and basketball and hockey created atmosphere. In a world where you see everything in the US being so entertainment driven and everybody focused on escapism and just having some sort of pastime that can take their minds off of the daily lifespan of things and just the way that life can just really put you down in some situations. Being able to get off of the 9 to 5, come to the downtown area and just genuinely have fun, genuinely be in a situation where now Utah will be a situation where you don't just have nature. You don't just go to Utah because you want to see the mountains, because you want to see different aspects of things in different wildlife areas and just the environment. You can go there and you'll be in a situation where you have that, but you also have the best of the other world and you have an entertainment situation, a place where you can go see different sports games. And it's not just going to be basketball. It can be the NHL too. If for some reason they manage to also bag an NFL team in the coming years, then that could be a very lucrative situation as well. But you always have to start somewhere. And I think that this is a really great step in the right direction. Now, in the picture of the rendering, it shows that there's a massive stadium at the end of the pedestrian boulevard. And it kind of gives the 2K My Player experience where you just go down the main road and you have the stadium at one end and then there's just little shops and places along the way. Now, obviously, it's going to be lined with bigger retail shops, restaurants, and more high-end buildings and high-rises. And there's also going to be situations where they think they'll have different pools and cabanas looking over the streets, which I think is a very interesting twist on what we've seen overall in the Salt Lake City area. Now, the Utah Senate actually ended up passing a bill that would see a sales tax increase of up to 0.5%, which isn't significant on a very small purchase, but obviously the larger purchases you make, the more it ends up adding up. And it will create roughly $1 billion of estimated revenue for the project over the next 20 years. Being that they ended up passing it, it puts them in a situation to where they understand that this is a very lucrative opportunity. It's one that necessarily needs to be done. And in a world where we're so technology driven, and there's a lot of situations where a lot of people just feel comfortable taking that next step in being comfortable reaching into new business ventures, this is going to be a way to help develop the state of Utah, and more so Salt Lake City, and put them in a situation to where they can bring in more big time players, and in turn bring in more money, more revenue, and have more people come in to visit the state, which helps with tourism a little bit. And while you don't necessarily want to have the most tourism, having a little extra money in the pocket because you have respectful people coming into the area to enjoy what you have in your city and within your state is going to do wonders for the economy of the area. So in the long run, I do think that ultimately this will be a very positive impact on the community at large, but more specifically for the basketball realm of things, it could potentially lead to maybe 5, 10, even 15 years down the road, seeing a lot more star players end up picking this destination in free agency, and not just being a situation where you have to trade for them and then convince them to stay, or you have to focus on just the draft, because that's really the only place you can end up getting lucky. Now, of course, this is very much in the infancy. It was a very interesting idea from the start. And honestly, when I first thought about it, I just thought about how much it could potentially end up being lucrative and how much it could benefit the NBA team specifically years to come down the line. I just wanted to get this information out there, see what everybody else's opinions were on it. Shout out to Andy Larson for dropping actually an article regarding the topic. I'll have that linked in the description below, so go ahead and check that out if you would like to see more information on it. And keep an eye out, because we will be tracking this story just a little bit more as the time progresses. That being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm always interested to hear what you guys have to say. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and become a member to support the channel and catch the videos faster than anybody else. With that being said, it's your boy Ray Thoops. Thanks for tuning in this video. As always, good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you are on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.